Hey team, this is DLC Foster-Yankey, and in this video, I will be sharing 7 steps for facilitating and participating in lesson internalization CBPLs. So if you watched the unit internalization video, you heard me share the quote, "Without goals and plans to reach them, you are like a ship that is set sail with no destination." So that corresponds with our first step of facilitating lesson internalization CBPLs. We want to set the tone of the meeting by sharing the destination or explicitly stating the purpose of the meeting. The cub is the same for every lesson internalization meeting, regardless of the unit. We only need to adjust the lesson numbers. So it is by the end of today's meeting, teachers will know the text, materials, and activities for lessons blank and blank, or however many lessons you're internalizing of the fill in the blank unit. Teachers will understand how the text, materials, and activities in those lessons align with the culminating task, and teachers will be able to plan differentiated lessons using those texts, materials, and activities. Oops. Hey, for step 2, we have the facilitator posing the internalization guiding questions using a discussion technique from Cult of Pedagogy's Big List of Discussion Questions, or really any discussion technique. So, this is a pretty important step. You may be tempted to assign lessons or specific activities to specific teachers ahead of the meeting to have them know what they're going to discuss. Don't do that. It doesn't benefit anyone, especially not the students, for their teacher to know one activity or one lesson really well. Each teacher teaches the entire lesson. So each teacher needs to be responsible for internalizing the entire lesson. The discussion technique you use is a way of holding everyone accountable for having done the pre work. We had the privilege of working with Mrs. Solano at MacArthur High, who made it clear to her teams that when you get called on to share, there is no opting out. Okay, you have to do the pre work, know your stuff so that you're prepared to discuss and contribute to those conversations with your team. Okay. Doing different discussion techniques also models for the team some different discussion techniques that they'll be able to use in the classroom with their students, which is why we have the list from Cult of Pedagogy. So as a facilitator, you really want to hone in on getting them to address how each individual activity aligns with a culminating task. It is much more difficult to skip or rush through activities when we truly understand their purpose. Step 3, after discussing the lesson, we have the team collaborate on the cubs. The goal is that eventually they will have these already written when they come to the meeting. And you may want to start out that way, or like we said, they can collaborate after having discussed the lessons together. Step 4, if time allows, teachers can create anchor charts needed for the lesson. If not, we definitely want to provide them with a list of possible and or required anchor charts. So if you have a note taker, they're writing those down so that they can be shared with everyone. If you are the instructional specialist, you can let the team know ahead of time, hey, I'm going to be looking for these specific anchor charts when I come in to observe your lessons. Step 5, once a week, the facilitator models a strategy, and we suggest starting with one of the differentiation strategies from the unit guide. These are the strategies listed at the top of the lesson internalization document. They were placed there by the curriculum writers. So it would be beneficial for teachers to see them modeled and also see ways to incorporate them into the lessons they've internalized. For example, in the first 9 weeks unit guide, there's an L strategy called Make Your Response, which provides a strategy for annotating. That will easily be incorporated when lessons in Odell call for students to annotate the text. Okay, so we're just showing teachers how they could marry the two and what it would look like. Step 6, the facilitator will wrap up the meeting by restating the objective and having the team reflect using an exit ticket. So, just as I stated in the unit internalization video, these two are important accountability measures for the facilitator. Did we meet our objective for this meeting? If not, why not? And then, what is your formative assessment as a facilitator? How will you really know that your objective has been met? And then, of course, we want to get the participants' input on the experience, reflect on it, and make adjustments to our facilitating accordingly. Step 7. After the meeting, within 24 hours, we want to follow up with the team regarding the feedback that they left on the exit ticket and also what pre work that they need to have done for the next meeting. Okay, so when DLC Sanders and I were facilitating some meetings, one piece of feedback we received several times was that teachers didn't feel they had enough time to do the pre work. So it's really important that they get an email reminder as soon as possible. In your email, address any of their concerns and let them know you actually do read the exit tickets. Okay, and then we go back to the beginning to prepare for our next meeting. Okay, so as teachers get used to this routine, you will find that most of this will happen organically, and that is exactly what we want. Everyone hates filling out a bunch of forms. Fortunately, when it becomes muscle memory, we start reading lessons with the internalization questions in mind. And eventually, the form becomes so obsolete that it doesn't even need to be filled out. That's the goal. Ideally, we'd have everyone at that stage by the end of the first 9 weeks, because after that, the work of internalization happens outside of CBPL, and we're moving on to lesson rehearsals. However, trying to do lesson rehearsals when lessons haven't been internalized just doesn't make sense. Any feedback would be treating the symptom and not the cause, which is the lesson wasn't internalized. So that concludes this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via email. And of course, check out the lesson internalization resources folder in the Schoolage group. And hopefully we see you at our professional development the week of October 4th. Thanks for watching.